Drake looks back on way too aggressive arrest in Sweden over nothing, spending 9 hours in jail. Good day, truth seekers and tea sippers. Welcome back to Celebrity Broadcast, where the drama is premium and the takes are hotter than a forgotten cup of coffee in July. Now, buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into a story that proves even global superstars can't escape the bewildering gravity of an international misunderstanding, especially when a private party is involved. We're talking about the Six God himself, Drake, revisiting a truly bizarre moment in his recent history, an arrest in Sweden that he claims was over absolutely nothing. Imagine, you're Drake. You own the charts, you probably have a line of bodyguards thicker than a winter coat, and yet, somehow, you end up spending 9 hours chilling in a Swedish jail cell. It's the kind of plot twist even M. Night Shyamalan would call a bit much. And the best part? The reason why he thinks it all went down is peak celebrity absurdity. We're unpacking the whole chaotic, semi-sarcastic story, straight from his recent tell-all chat. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 95% of viewers haven't yet. It's free. Takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks, if you did. Now back to the show. So, the stage was set during Drake's highly anticipated, and let's be honest, a men's-making interview with Bobby Althoff on her now famous, or infamous, Not This Again show. Remember that initial, almost painfully awkward interview? Well, they've run it back, and this time, Drake came armed with stories, specifically one that's been lurking in the shadows of his European tour memories since 2022. The conversation, naturally, drifted toward the kind of life experiences that separate the A-listers from the rest of us. And that's when Bobby dropped the classic question, had he ever spent time in jail? Now, for a guy who often raps about luxury living in private jets, the answer was surprisingly grounded, literally. I got arrested in Sweden, Drake admitted, dropping the bombshell with the casual ease of ordering takeout. He even added a layer of comedic suspense, noting, I actually have a show coming up there. I feel like they're gonna try and run it back. The irony of planning a triumphant return to a country that previously locked you up is not lost on us, or apparently, on Drake. Bobby, ever the optimistic host, suggested Swedish forgiveness might be on the menu. Drake's response? A definitive, and quite frankly, skeptical, I don't know if they will, because this wasn't some minor ticketing issue. He clarified the time spent behind bars wasn't a quick 5-minute chat with the authorities. I spent a pretty long time in jail, 9 hours. 9 hours. That's enough time to binge-watch a decent chunk of a prestige drama, or, in Drake's case, apparently enough time to plot a petty revenge fantasy. But here's where the story gets juicier than a summer peach and infinitely more ridiculous. Why the 9-hour involuntary stay at the Swedish hotel with bars? No, he insisted, because I got arrested for nothing. Now, nothing in a celebrity context can mean anything from I had one unauthorized party favor to I breathed in the wrong direction. But Drake then elaborated, providing a motive so petty it belongs in a sitcom. Apparently, like, well, we did a private party and one of the guys, the officers, his girl came to the private party. Stop right there. A private party. An officer's girlfriend. A celebrity. The ingredients for a glorious misunderstanding, or a spectacular abuse of power, are all present. Drake continued, but they arrested me way too aggressive and they arrested me for nothing. We're going to pause right here and let that sink in. The implication, subtle as a sledgehammer, is that Drizzy's detainment, which was initially reported in July 2022 and quickly became a confused internet frenzy, might not have been about illegal substances or disorderly conduct at all, but rather a disgruntled authority figure who felt his romantic territory had been invaded by a Canadian rapper. If this is true, that Swedish jail cell didn't smell like Harvey Musk, as he later rapped, but more like a blend of professional jealousy and an incredibly high-stakes keep away from my girl message. Now, let's pivot from the absurd to the official. Because as much as we love a scandalous narrative fueled by a possible love triangle, we need to address the actual history. Remember 2022? The internet was ablaze with rumors. Initial news reports hinted that the arrest or detainment was linked to weed. The term weed was plastered everywhere. But then, a rep for Drake quickly stepped in, trying to hose down the international fire, telling the Hollywood Reporter that an arrest had not, in fact, occurred. It was merely a detainment, they insisted. Like a very long, very uncomfortable timeout. But Drake, in this recent interview, is using the A-word, arrested. He spent 9 hours, which is longer than a standard workday, being arrested. So, who's telling the gospel truth? The official press release or the guy who was allegedly inside the cell? We'll let you decide, but one thing is clear, 9 hours in custody is never nothing, even if the reason behind it feels like a cosmic prank. Let's crank up the sass meter and talk about the artist's receipts. Because when Drake has a beef, he doesn't just tweet about it, he immortalizes it in his music. Soon after the 2022 incident, the Swedish Shenanigans got a VIP mention on the Her Lost track, Middle of the Ocean. His genius lyric? The self-imposed, luxurious-sounding scent of a Swedish jail cell. This is peak Drake, taking a less-than-glamorous situation and spinning it into an instantly quotable, albeit slightly fictionalized, rap flex. It's like turning an airport delay into a poetic meditation on time. But wait, there's more evidence. Because Drake also knows the power of a good social media visual. He later shared video footage that, well, certainly appeared to show him being taken in by Swedish authorities. The camera never lies, or at least, it rarely lies as well as a PR statement. It showed the world exactly what we thought, the man was being escorted. The details were vague, the context was missing, but the visual was impactful. He gave the world the meme, then he gave the world the song, and now, he's given the world the backstory, complete with the possible identity of the alleged antagonist, a grumpy, potentially heartbroken police officer. Now, let's get back to the current conversation and the delicious, almost unbelievable punchline. Because Drake, ever the showman and perhaps still slightly miffed by the aggressive nature of the arrest, ended his recollection with a wink and a nod that perfectly encapsulates his brand of playful pettiness. He was asked if he had any plans for the woman whose attendance at his private party allegedly kicked off this whole international affair. His response? Perhaps jokingly, perhaps not, he added that he was hoping to have the unidentified woman in question return for a future show. Oh yeah, his girl's coming back out for sure, he said, but only, he added with perfect, deadpan comedic timing, if he can find her. That's right. The ultimate clap back. Not a lawsuit. Not a diss track against the Swedish authorities, but a vow to locate the officer's girlfriend, whose presence at a party he was hosting may have accidentally triggered his 9-hour incarceration, and invite her back to his show. This is like getting a parking ticket and deciding the best revenge is to date the parking attendant's cousin. It's hilariously, absurdly passive-aggressive and quintessentially Drake. It shows that beneath the global superstar sheen, there's still a guy who gets arrested for nothing, has to endure 9 hours of what we can only assume was no Wi-Fi misery, and then decides to make a joke and a potentially awkward future encounter out of the whole thing. So, here's the wrap-up of this celebrity soap opera. We have a superstar, an alleged arrest in 2022, conflicting reports about the reason, weed versus a private party attendee, a rap lyric about the smell, a corroborating video, and now, 2 years later, a claim that the whole thing was way too aggressive and over nothing involving an officer's jealous rage. The only thing missing is a Netflix documentary, but frankly, this YouTube script should tide you over. The takeaway? Even for a celebrity of Drake's stature, sometimes life hands you an unexpected, 9-hour, international detention that feels less like a rock star moment and more like a poorly executed B-plot in a comedy film. But if you're drizzy, you just rap about